So Insomniac's new Spider-Man 2 game came out a while ago, and I wanted to do a thorough comparison of how this Spider-Man compares to the first Spider-Man on the PlayStation. So Spider-Man 2 makes some very clear improvements. The top speed of swinging in the game has been increased drastically, so you can absolutely soar through the game now. I couldn't exaggerate enough how much the speed changes so much in this game. You feel like you're going so incredibly fast. It's a fantastic feeling. Who would have thought it would make such a difference? But it's still not perfect, but I would say it's definitely worth your time. First, we'll talk about the web swinging. We'll get right into it. They actually made quite a lot of differences to the web swing than I expected them to in this game. You see, if you go into the settings right away, there's an option to turn down swing steering assistance all the way down to 0. And from what I've played, this basically means that whenever you make a web swing, you'll no longer be centered to like going straight forward to whatever you want. You'll actually be tugged away, like tugged towards the direction of the web, like much more strongly. You can definitely resist, and it's probably not as much of a force as it probably should be, but it still definitely adds to some realism. And I also think that it makes it so when you make a web swing, you're more likely to be able to hit the ground. If the web's going to hit the ground, then you will hit the ground. And unfortunately, there's no running across the ground while holding onto a web in this game. Unfortunately, they didn't quite do that. It'd be really nice for them to add this feature at some point, but I think it's alright the way it is. I do like being able to hit the ground while you're web swinging. Would be nice to run across the ground, but one thing that's annoyed me in particular is that you really can't quite control where your webs go. Like, since you're able to web far enough for you to hit the ground, you want to be able to like really precisely control where your webs are going to hit. Like, sometimes you swing really low and you'll expect a web swing onto like a tree that's really close to you to give you like a extremely quick swing that just sends you flying, but instead you'll just web onto a building way far away and there's no way you're going to make that swing, so you just hit the ground. And that happens so much in this game. I don't know if I described that particularly well. I think a good solution to this would be just like some tiny little indication, some tiny little like dot that'll show where your web will go when you press R2. But yeah, other than that, the web swing in this game is extremely good. Who would have thought just a small boost in speed would be enough to really make this game feel so much cooler. They added quite a few new speed boost options. One thing you may have seen already would be the full 360 swing. Like, it's a swing where you swing against something, then you do a full like loop-de-loop and gain a ton of speed. The physics clearly are definitely quite wonky here. But it's hilarious when you take the swing too wide and you come back around and just smack against the building and just fucking die. That's the best when that happens. Even though it's unrealistic, I honestly don't really care that much because it's fun. It's really fun. It would be nice if there was another ability like this, but except for a vertical loop-de-loop, you could do like a horizontal loop-de-loop. Like, imagine you're around the Empire State Building, or you manage to just hook onto something that happens to like be sticking out a bit more, so you can just do a full 360 swing around it and just absolutely fly. That would be so cool if they added that. And hey, I guess we'll just have to wait for Spider-Man 3, eh? They also added this new wingsuit to the game. And you know, when I first saw this, I was pretty disappointed when I saw this in the trailers. Ain't supposed to be about no web wings. Was this Just Cause or something? Is this Saints Row? Everything game's gotta have wingsuits nowadays, but no. In Spider-Man it actually works alright. Considering you can now go to Queens, which is next to New York there, you can actually go to the right of New York, which is not something you see very often in Spider-Man games, but something very cool. It's an area you've always seen, never been able to go, and now you can finally go there. And it makes sense for the wingsuit to exist because there's that huge lake of water in between, and you can just wingsuit over that, and that can feel pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for the wingsuit. It was unexpected how useful it actually is, but most of the time I just prefer to swing around the city because, you know, Spider-Man. I'm here to play Spider-Man, not Just Cause guy. Now I'd like to move on to the combat. The combat in this game isn't super different from the first game. It still has a lot of the same attack combos, although a lot of the things that you would have as like full upgrades in the end of the first game are just stuff you have unlocked from the beginning, which is really nice. Although I will say, this game is definitely a lot more difficult on the combat. I didn't have too hard of a time for this game because I played a shit ton of the original Marvel Spider-Man. But yeah, the combat in this game is a lot tougher. They've added parrying into this game. Like it was goddamn Sekiro or something. Now enemies have a yellow indicator and you have to press the left bumper and you can parry them. You can like knock their attacks out the way. And dodging doesn't work. They just sort of track you down. And it's definitely quite a switch up. I can see a lot of players always getting hit by this. Even me, most of the time I'd get hit by it. And the tough attacks definitely adds a new level of skill to this game. Even though it is incredibly simple and it's not that hard to get the hang of when you've really played this a lot. But the thing that does make it hard is that it flashes yellow at the first part of the indicator, but then it flashes red. But normal attacks also they flash white and then flash red. So if you're looking away and then you look right as the enemy is doing like a strong yellow attack and it's right the red part, there's absolutely no way of telling whether it's a normal attack or a parry attack. And, you know, you try and dodge most attacks because most attacks are dodges and then you just get slammed. And that doesn't feel particularly fair. I can definitely see why people would be upset about that. But overall, it didn't really give me too much trouble. But yeah, they added a ton of new cool abilities you can do while fighting. Some of the things are spoilers. Venom. Venom attacks, Venom abilities, Venom suit. I'll get into the story of it later, but the gameplay. The Venom suit does feel powerful as hell. At the start, you really don't get a whole lot of access other than story to the like super strong version of Venom. Yeah, the Venom abilities are super powerful. They have a ton of oomph to them. I gotta say, the controller vibration things they did in this game were really good. Feels like no game's really improved or done anything with like the special controller vibrations of the PS5, and until this game, every game's sort of just forgotten about it except for Spider-Man. But you really feel a lot of oomph behind Venom's attacks, and his abilities are so strong. I forgot to mention, the way they did combat in this game, you now have a set of abilities that you can use. A set of 4 different abilities that take a bit of time to recharge, but are like super strong attacks. And I think it was a good idea. It really reminds me of our Xenoverse or something. So for Spider-Man, you can have like Venom ones equipped, or if you want to be more classic, you can just have the arms. Although the arms aren't exactly classic either. They're also sort of a weird new thing. But whether you want to be Venom or regular Spider-Man, you can do that with the combat abilities. And just not use the Venom's rage mode, I suppose. It feels a lot higher pace. It really feels like they really cranked up the speed on a lot of Spider-Man's animations, or just gave him a whole lot more oomph. Everything looks a lot nicer and it feels a lot nicer. The combat is still as fun and quick and zippy as ever. I love bouncing around. You can like bounce enemies off the ground. There are some crazy things you can do in this game. You bounce them on the ground, whip them into each other. The gadgets, they really improved the gadgets here. It's like Miles Morales, where they made it so there's a lot less quantity, but quality over quantity. Yeah, if you're all these fully upgraded, you can just go into a combat encounter and you can just like spam all of them at once and they'll all die. They're kind of broken at the end of the game. I'll do it as a demonstration right here. See, I'm just... Oh, they're not dead yet. Oh, better use some more. Yep, and they're dead. And they're all dead. That's pretty much all I want to say about the combat for now. Now, I'll talk a little bit about the story. I won't go too in-depth about the story because that's something that I think you can just find for yourself. It's something that's just worth watching for yourself. It's not really worth explaining. It's definitely worth just seeing the story. I will say, this game definitely goes way harder than the first one. It really feels like they upped the voice acting quality quite a bit. Like, they take it so much more seriously. In the first game, like, there wasn't a whole ton of emotion to all the things. It was definitely possible, and I didn't mind it, but it was kind of like, you never really felt too invested in anything in that game. It was just sort of fun for the sake of fun. Nothing was too serious. But in this game, the voice actors really go hard. Like, they put their all into it. And you really feel it. Like, all the writing in this game is just so much more serious. And they're less afraid. Like the first game, they felt like they were too afraid to really say anything too substantial. In this game, it feels like they're not afraid to say what they want to really, what messages they really want to put across. I'd say it is a massive improvement on the first game, and I definitely wasn't expecting it, because from the gameplay trailers I saw it and I thought it looked way too similar for the first game, but it definitely makes its mark. It stands out a ton, and I bet it's going to be really hard to go back to the first game after this. This game just improves in like every way. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about the Spider-Man 2. I think it's definitely worth playing. If you never played the first Spider-Man game, I'd recommend just coming straight to this one. Like, there's not much you're missing from the first game. If you play this, if you do go back to the first game after the second game, you'll realize it'll probably just feel extremely bare bones in comparison. But yeah, I guess that's about it. And overall, I would say I recommend this game. I definitely do. Anyone who has a PlayStation 5. Oh yeah, and zero steering assistance and fall damage is the only way to play the game, okay? Can't even question me on that. It's the only way to play.